Why holding cash is riskier than buying Bitcoin. Think Billion X channel welcomes you all. I don't know why so many people think Bitcoin is a scam. As a result, whenever they hear information about Bitcoin, their subconscious automatically tunes it out, feeling it's irrelevant to them. They think, people say it's a scam. If I look into it and get scammed, what then? Better not to look at all, so I won't get scammed, right? But here's the funny thing. Every time Bitcoin's price skyrockets, those who once called it a scam suddenly disappear. They all go silent. Why is that? On the other hand, people who never cared about Bitcoin start asking, is it too late to buy Bitcoin now? Isn't the price too high already? Those who miss Bitcoin's price surges aren't really trying to understand what Bitcoin is. They just want you to give them some confidence or reassurance. Some hope I'll praise Bitcoin to give them the courage to invest. Others hope I'll criticize it so they can console themselves for missing the opportunity. People who only pay attention to an asset after it surges typically face two outcomes. They either miss the upward trend forever, or they buy at the peak and get stuck with their investment. Yes, you heard that right. Whether they choose to buy or not, the outcome isn't good. Why? Because they don't respect money. They invest blindly, following the crowd, driven by emotions rather than logic. We should be grateful for such people because we've learned from their mistakes to make smarter choices. If they didn't lose money, how will we make ours? The future of Bitcoin. Opportunity amid crisis. An ancient philosophy has predicted that 20 years after 2024 will be an era of dynamism, tied to virtual assets and the internet, including cryptocurrencies, which will be among the most profitable assets. So, is it still possible to invest in Bitcoin in 2025? If you still don't know the answers to these questions, you'll keep repeating the same cycle. Can I buy Bitcoin in 2025? What about 2026? 2027? Can I buy Bitcoin in the future? If you don't want your socioeconomic status to remain fixed, unable to rise, or if you're unsure whether your mindset will change later, if you don't know whether one day you'll suddenly accept Bitcoin, but by then the price has soared beyond your reach, then honestly, if you'll eventually want to invest in Bitcoin anyway, you must read this article to the end. I sincerely wish those who like this post achieve financial freedom soon. This channel is dedicated to sharing wealth-building insights for investors, entrepreneurs, and the affluent. If you don't want to miss future valuable insights, consider following the channel for free and turning on notifications. The real scam: paper money and saving. In reality, many people are passively living within a true scam without even realizing it. That's the scariest thing. Many believe that the past 5 years, post-pandemic, amid wars and rising interest rates, have been full of economic crises. But most people only see the risks, not the opportunities. There's a saying, in times of crisis, cash is king. It's simple. You might lose your job, fail to pay your rent or car loan, or even struggle with credit card debt. Many people have a habit of saving for security. They think, I'll save more, avoid investing, not buy anything, and save to get through crisis after crisis. That sounds very logical. Good for you. Before, you had $50,000. Now, thanks to saving, you have $100,000. But then you realize something. Back when you had $50,000, you lived happily because you could afford a house in the city. Now what? You have $100,000, your assets doubled, but you can't even afford a small apartment. In other words, the more money you save, the more things you can't afford. Why is that? Here's the key. This so-called scam is designed to punish those who love to save money. What does that mean? In theory, when the economy slows down and conditions worsen, the first step should be to stimulate jobs and production. Once people have money, they'll start spending and investing, gradually reviving the economy. But today, American capitalists tell you it can work the other way around. Just print money and give it to the public. When people have money, they'll naturally spend and invest, boosting jobs and the economy. That sounds reasonable, and you might agree. But here's the problem. Didn't they say they'd print money and distribute it for people to spend? So why? Every time the media reports that the U.S. Federal Reserve, Fed, prints massive amounts of money, does none of it ever end up in our pockets? The truth about money printing, who really benefits? At this point, the Fed will say, the newly printed money isn't distributed evenly to everyone. For example, the Fed prints money and lends it to banks at a very low interest rate, say 1%. Those banks can then lend it out at 2%, earning a 1% profit margin. A 2% interest rate on a $1 million loan means you only pay $20,000 a year, practically interest-free. Naturally, everyone wants to borrow this money, but banks won't lend to just anyone. The reason is simple. If you had $5,000 and lots of people wanted to borrow from you, would you lend to everyone? Of course not. Many wouldn't be able to repay. For example, if you lend $1,000 and only earn $10 in interest, but risk losing the entire $1,000 if they don't pay back, who would take that deal? So, banks only lend to a select few, business owners and investors with collateral. These wealthy individuals, after borrowing at such low rates, use the money to snowball their investments. For instance, they buy land, build a few buildings, and sell them for double the profit. During that construction process, many industries are boosted and the economy gradually improves. The idea is to let a small group get rich first. They'll spend and invest, pulling society up with them. It sounds wonderful, but the reality is the rich can easily borrow nearly interest-free money and use leverage to make even more. But what about most ordinary people? Does money printing affect you? If the U.S. prints another $10 billion, do you get a single penny? All you can do is hope the rich hire you. Meanwhile, they use the borrowed money to employ you, making even more money for themselves. Money printing, the enemy of savers. Printing money also means there's more money in the market. That, in turn, means the salary you worked so hard for loses value over time. Simply put, printing money is like silent theft. As long as you save money, your purchasing power is quietly transferred to those who can access the new money. In other words, paper money and saving are the real scam. To make people confidently hoard money in this scam, they'll tell you that other currencies are scams too. Gold and silver? A scam. They're just chemical elements with no value. Bitcoin? Even more of a scam. It's virtual, invisible, untouchable. Only a fool would buy a string of code, right? Paper money is virtual too. How is Bitcoin different? But have you ever thought about this? Money today is virtual too. For example, my bank account shows $5,000. Do I withdraw all of that as cash and keep it at home? Of course not. Just so I can see and touch it to feel it's more real? Definitely not. The cash I carry is probably just a few dollars. When I pay my employees, it's just a number decreasing in my account. If I earn $1 million today, I don't actually hold $1 million in my hands. It's just a number in my bank account going up by $1 million. If you travel abroad, you'll see it even more clearly. Hardly anyone uses a wallet anymore. They all pay with their phones. So does money really need to be seen or touched? What's more, the US dollar has no printing limit. Once money printing starts, it can't be reversed or stopped. What does this mean? It means the public's wealth might be fine at noon, but sooner or later, it'll be wiped out. For example, in a South American country, people once used paper money as toilet paper, and bosses had to pay employees with food. In the end, the people there had no choice but to buy Bitcoin to protect their assets. Even the government mobilized the military to mine Bitcoin. Bitcoin, a currency beyond control. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is capped at exactly 21 million coins. No one can increase that number. So, For something American capitalists can't control, something that threatens the dollar's dominance, they have only one option: destroy it. In the past, they refused to recognize it. They called it a scam. But what exactly is a scam? A scam is when someone makes a promise but doesn't follow through. That's a scam. Why did the whole world once use the US dollar? Because American capitalists said doing business with gold is inconvenient. So here's the deal. Everyone used the US dollar because it's backed by gold. You hold dollars, and you can exchange them for gold anytime. But then, once every country was using dollars for trade, American capitalists declared, from now on, dollars can't be exchanged for gold anymore. You don't need gold anyway. After everyone was holding dollars, they started printing more, devaluing the money in people's hands. Isn't that a promise they didn't keep? They broke their word. What has Bitcoin promised you? So what has Bitcoin promised you? It never promised that if you buy it, you'll definitely make a high profit. It never promised to replace the US dollar. Plus, almost all information about it is transparent. How many Bitcoins exist, whether someone recently bought a large amount. You can easily look it up. So, with no promises made, what exactly has Bitcoin scammed you out of? Take famous paintings by Picasso or Van Gogh. They can fetch hundreds of millions of dollars at auction. Is that a scam? If I'm in the art world, I might think it's worth that price. But for someone who doesn't understand art, if you don't tell them it's a Picasso, they might not even want it as a gift, or they might throw it away because they don't have space to hang it. So why is a painting worth hundreds of millions? If that painting dropped to $10 million, $1 million, or became affordable to everyone, would it still be called a scam? Using the same logic, Bitcoin went from a few cents to tens of thousands of dollars. Is that a scam? If you're not part of the Bitcoin community, it might seem worthless to you. But value and being a scam are two entirely different things. As long as there are people willing to buy and sell, no one forces you to buy or sell Bitcoin, and there's no multi-level marketing scheme here. It can't be called a scam. You might say Bitcoin's value is inflated, but that doesn't make it a scam. For us, whether Bitcoin's value is inflated or not doesn't matter. Only those who missed the price surge and didn't make money care about that. Who backs Bitcoin? Some still can't grasp this because from childhood, they've been taught that only governments can issue currency. So they think Bitcoin was created by ordinary people. If we all use this currency, then Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin's inventor, would rise from nothing since he's the founder and holds the most Bitcoin in the world. That's unfair, right? But here's the thing. The U.S. Federal Reserve, Fed, which issues the dollar, isn't even a government institution. It's a system of private banks. What's a private bank? For example, a major bank controlled by a single family. In reality, the power to issue currency has never been in the government's hands. It's always been held by financial conglomerates and powerful families. As for Bitcoin's inventor, Satoshi Nakamoto, no one knows who he is to this day. The Bitcoin he holds has never been sold. Here's the most important part. The supply of Bitcoin is fixed at 21 million. No one can change that. This is called decentralization. In reality, anyone can create a currency. The key is, will it be accepted? For example, in ancient China, the government allowed citizens to freely issue money, as long as people were willing to use it. This non-interventionist, natural approach is called a free market in economics, which economists strongly advocate for. It was thanks to this that the era achieved economic prosperity. Though the US dollar is no longer backed by gold, it's still supported by the US government, representing economic, military, and political power. We trust the US won't collapse, so we trust the dollar. So what backs Bitcoin? Simple. Individuals so wealthy they rival entire nations. Today, governments know how much money we have, what we spend it on, who sends us money, and whether we've paid taxes. but the truly rich value privacy and security above all. For example, Elon Musk's reported net worth is $200 billion, but that figure is certainly underestimated. We don't know how much cash, gold, or Bitcoin he holds. Those are hidden assets. Moreover, the U.S. is currently sanctioning Russia, freezing the bank accounts of wealthy Russians. So what do? No problem. They've already converted their assets into Bitcoin. Today, if you earn $100 million, you have to pay taxes. But what if I earn $100 million in Bitcoin? Many scams, hackers, or dirty money from corruption often use Bitcoin or Ethereum for money laundering because cryptocurrencies are hard to track. In other words, behind cryptocurrencies are individuals as rich as nations who prioritize privacy, or they might be hiding illicit funds. Do you think those people would let Bitcoin collapse? Bitcoin, a scam that's lasted 16 years. Even if you still think it's a scam, Bitcoin is a scam that's lasted 16 years. What does that mean? If you invest in stocks, 95% of companies worldwide don't last as long as Bitcoin. In the past, tulips were hyped up to insane prices until someone ate a tulip bulb. That's when people realized the flower had no real value, and the tulip bubble burst. The tulip bubble lasted 3 years, from the frenzy to the crash. But the so-called Bitcoin bubble has lasted 16 years. Not only has it not burst, but it keeps hitting new highs. So I genuinely hope you'll think carefully. Is holding cutting-edge technology riskier, or is keeping cash without moving to digital assets the bigger risk? Imagine, if in the future our portfolios lack Bitcoin, it's like betting against ourselves, against a future with massive growth potential. The shift among the elite, Bitcoin gains recognition. Here's the key point and the secret I want to share with you. Right now, whether it's the U.S. establishment or financial tycoons, they're quietly shifting their stance entirely. But many people are unaware. The powers that be have realized the scale of money flowing into Bitcoin's ecosystem is massive. Simply put, as more people join the Bitcoin market, more money pours in. They can't control the supply of Bitcoin, but they can control its market. So, a country that once refused to recognize Bitcoin's legitimacy suddenly approved Bitcoin ETFs, allowing Bitcoin to be traded like stocks on the stock market. In simple terms, if you have a brokerage account, you can buy and sell Bitcoin like stocks. In the past, to trade Bitcoin, you had to use crypto exchanges, which often led to scams. In some regions, there were major incidents. For example, you deposit $1,000 to buy Bitcoin, the price rises, and your account shows a 50% profit, but it's only on paper because you can't withdraw the money. Your funds are locked, and you can't get them back. You thought you made money from Bitcoin, but it was just a number. You couldn't cash out. That's the scam of the exchange. But now, people can buy Bitcoin ETFs in the US, just like buying stocks. So, many will convert their money to US dollars and pour it into the US stock market. This means people are trading Bitcoin using US dollars for transactions. Just like in the past, when international trade required US dollars for payments, buying oil also needed dollars. Now, the US is tying Bitcoin to the dollar. If you want to buy Bitcoin, you need to use dollars. This further solidifies the dollar's dominance. The elite's change of heart. Bitcoin gains acceptance. Because of this, many who previously ignored Bitcoin are now investing in it through ETFs, as trading has become much easier. Take a prominent US leader, for example. He was once vocally against crypto, but recently he publicly stated he owns a significant amount of cryptocurrency. Doesn't that mean the US has officially recognized the status of Bitcoin and crypto? Think about it. Could the US start treating Bitcoin as a reserve asset like gold? When a superpower begins stockpiling Bitcoin, and its current market value is only 1 out of 10 TH that of gold, it means Bitcoin's price is still too cheap. it would need to rise 10 times to be considered reasonable. A famous investor, who once called Bitcoin a scam, invested in a bank that primarily offers Bitcoin trading services to clients. His lifelong investment principle was to never invest in things he didn't understand or believe in. Yet now, he's entered the crypto space. Doesn't this show he's starting to recognize Bitcoin's value? Many wealthy people who once swore they'd never touch crypto have quietly changed course, pouring money into Bitcoin to position themselves strategically. Is Bitcoin still a scam? So, does the question, is Bitcoin a scam, even matter anymore? Many are willing to pay more for a single Bitcoin. Simply put, each day, people are willing to pay a higher price to buy it. Whether big or small investors, everyone is growing increasingly optimistic about Bitcoin. Of course, there are many methods to gauge whether Bitcoin is in a growth phase. But the most important thing to know is Bitcoin is still in an upward cycle. The bull market hasn't reached its end, because only in a bull market do prices rise easily, making it easier for us to profit. Investors' mistake: buying high, selling low. Most people, whether investing in stocks or Bitcoin, lose money. Why? Because they love buying at the end of a cycle, chasing bottoms. The more it drops, the more they buy. The result: the more they lose, the more they pour in, making their mistakes worse until they can't escape. In the past, when Bitcoin's price moved sideways, neither rising nor falling, it showed that while many were taking profits and selling, others were confidently buying in. That's why the price didn't rise or fall. We call this sideways movement in that price range accumulation. Currently, the price is approaching a resistance zone. Once it breaks through that resistance and surges, it will kick off a new wave of price increases. Don't bet against the future. Over the next 20 years, your fate depends on a single thought in your mind. Due to time constraints, I'll end the article here. I share free insights on becoming wealthy, an entrepreneur, an investor, and achieving financial freedom. If you don't want to miss out, follow my channel, turn on notifications, and share this article freely. I genuinely wish everyone who liked this post achieves financial freedom soon. If you find just one or two helpful insights in today's article that improve your life, I'm already fulfilled.